In the beginning of the film, Jimmy, an android, narrates what happened in the first part of the movie in a summary form. Kora and Gunnar set out to gather a band of warriors to defend their peaceful colony, Velt, from Admiral Noble's oppressive demands. They recruited skilled fighters from various locations, including Tarek, Nemesis, General Titus, Darien Bloodaxe, and Milius. Together, they launched a surprise attack on Noble's forces at Gondoval, resulting in a significant victory for Kora. However, unbeknownst to Kora, the Imperium had other plans. They retrieved Noble's body and brought him back to life under the watchful eye of Cassius, a fierce warrior from Noble's dreadnought. With his resurrection, Noble wasted no time in ordering Cassius to set a course for Velt, intent on confronting Kora, the Scargiver. The battle for Velt was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. Kora, a former soldier of the Imperium, and the remaining warriors make their way back to Velt, a moon orbiting the gas giant Mara. They arrive with the belief that Kora has successfully killed Admiral Noble, Belisarius's right-hand man, and thwarted the impending assault on Velt's precious food supplies. Meanwhile, JC-1435, known as Jimmy, the last of a race of mechanical knights, has chosen to refuse service to the Motherworld. On Velt, Cassius contacts his soldier Eris to relay Noble's orders. Eris, who is secretly working as a double agent for the villagers, reveals the shocking news. Admiral Noble is still alive, and his dreadnought will arrive in just 5 days. With this urgent information, Kora and her fighters team up with a small group of villagers to gather the entire grain supply within 3 days. They plan to use the flour as leverage to prevent the Motherworld forces from bombing their village from orbit. In the remaining 2 days, Titus, a former Imperium general recruited to lead the fight against the Motherworld, will train the villagers to defend themselves. The clock is ticking, and the fate of Velt hangs in the balance. As Kora and Gunnar, a local farmer, deepen their bond and become lovers, Kora reveals a troubling secret from her past. She confides in Gunnar that Regent Belisarius, her adoptive father who took control of the Motherworld, forced her to take part in the assassination of the royal family. This horrific act included the death of the king, queen, and their young daughter, Princess Issa, with Kora herself being the one who pulled the trigger on the princess. The tragic events unfolded during the christening of the Peacemaker, the last dreadnought-class battleship which symbolized the end of the Motherworld's era of expansion. Belisarius, motivated by fear of losing power, murdered the king and queen, believing that Princess Issa would dismantle the war machine that depended on the sacrifices of countless soldiers. Rather than allowing the princess to end the expansionist agenda, Belisarius orchestrated the coup. In the chaos that followed, Belisarius tried to frame Kora for the assassination, but she managed to escape. Using a Motherworld shuttle, she fled to Velt, seeking refuge from the law and the turmoil that surrounded her. The weight of her past now looms over her, complicating her present and the fight ahead. In Velt, everyone collaborates to complete the grain harvest as quickly as possible before the forces of Motherworld, led by Admiral Noble, arrive. Then, we see a scene of Noble's fury, tired of his recovery situation, where he kills one of his own soldiers who tries to stop him, believing that more tests still need to be conducted on him. After the grain harvest was nearly complete, Ares once again speaks with Cassius through a device and provides him with full information, including that the wheat was harvested on time and no one protested. Ares then refers to the villagers as a bunch of filthy dogs, undeserving of anything. It remains unclear why Ares speaks this way, whether it is simply because he is a double agent, or if he himself is a dirty rat who aligns with whoever benefits him the most. After the harvest, the villagers come together for a night filled with feasting and community spirit, all observed from a distance by Jimmy. During the next 2 days, Titus, Nemesis, a skilled cyborg swordmaster, Tarek, a former nobleman turned blacksmith, Milius, and Kora train a small group of villagers in combat. Everyone is striving to learn how to use weapons and defend themselves so they can stand against the forces of Motherworld. They devise a plan that includes digging trenches and tunnels in the field, setting explosives, and getting Kora's shuttle ready, which had been abandoned in the mountains for over 2 seasons. To protect their grain supply from being destroyed, the villagers move the grain around, ensuring it cannot be easily targeted. Kora and Eris work together to repair the shuttle, and Kora manages to successfully start it up. As they prepare for the upcoming battle, the group shares their stories, revealing their past to one another. However, Kora chooses to keep her involvement in Princess Issa's death a secret. Titus shares his own painful history. He was ordered by Belisarius to hover over the Parliament of Sarawu in his battleship, forcing them to vote against independence from the realm. When Sarawu voted for freedom, Titus received orders to open fire on the capital. He refused, leading to his ship being shot down and his crew slaughtered. Milius recounts her past on a farming world where fear kept the population from fighting against the mother world. As a result, many people were captured and sent to labor camps across the universe. She was freed by the resistance when Darian attacked the mines where she worked, inspiring her to become a rebel. Nemesis shares her story of growing up in a fishing village that was destroyed by Imperial forces. In her desperation, she cut her own arms to receive cyborg implants, transforming herself into a warrior like her ancestors. Tarek explains that he was once a royal on his planet. The mother world killed his father, who had gone to negotiate a peace treaty, and during the invasion, his mother was also lost. She committed suicide before the forces of mother world could get to her. He then smuggled off planet in a refugee transport. He vowed to stop the mother world from destroying another world. Finally, Kora shares that she is a war orphan raised by Belisarius. She only found a sense of family when she arrived on Velt. Together, they bond over their shared experiences, united in their determination to fight back against the mother world. Jimmy finally meets Kora, and during their conversation, she helps him realize that both of them have been trained to fight for the mother world. However, their greatest fear is that they might end up fighting alongside each other. Jimmy acknowledges this truth, but expresses his belief that they have no chance of winning. Just as they were conducting the final checks to execute their flawless plan, Titus spotted the enemy ship in the sky, and Hagen sounded the alarm. Everyone, including Nemesis, got ready and took cover in ambush positions. When Admiral Noble arrives with his dreadnought, his forces begin scanning the village, pinpointing the locations where the women and children are hiding, protected by Nemesis and Aris. Noble sends troops to capture them in an attempt to lure Kora out of hiding. Kora tries to negotiate, offering to let Noble take the grain if he spares the village. However, Noble refuses to leave without Kora, believing that presenting her to Belisarius would earn him a seat on the Senate. Noble manipulates Kora's insecurities by threatening to destroy the village in her name. Despite her intentions to surrender to save her people, Gunnar triggers the ambush anyway.
Wait a sec. What just happened, guys? I believe Gunnar's selfishness for love and being with Kora practically endangered the lives of the villagers.
And after a rocket was launched toward the enemy ships, the war officially began. During this time, Gunnar managed to take Kora with him. Meanwhile, Noble entered one of the tunnels and began killing the villagers. Then Den, another brave and honorable villager, threw a hand mine at the enemy ship as it was attempting to escape and take off, causing it to explode. Den then noticed Noble's presence and engaged in a fight with him near the ship. However, he ultimately succumbed to Noble's ruthless power and was killed, being thrown off the ship by Noble. Titus and Tarek lead the villagers in courageously pushing back the first wave of enemy forces. Nemesis was in a place where the defenseless villagers, including women, the elderly, and children, were located. She bravely fought against all the enemy forces. However, after being attacked several times, she first lost her hand and then was struck by a sword from one of the high-ranking enemy officers. Although a young boy who cared for her defended him by stabbing the enemy with a knife, it allowed Nemesis to use the same knife to take down the enemy. Despite this, Nemesis did not last long and ultimately succumbed to her injuries. Enemy's tragedy strikes again when Nemesis is killed while defending the women and children. The battle intensifies, and the stakes continue to rise as Kora grapples with her choices and the consequences of the conflict. The large wave of heavily armored Motherworld troops pushes the few remaining defenders back, causing significant destruction in the village. When Milius saw that the villagers were forced to retreat and were losing ground to the enemy, she didn't sit idly by. She infiltrated behind enemy lines through a hidden path and used a rocket launcher to destroy the enemy shooting robot, providing significant help to everyone. In the midst of the chaos, Kora and Gunnar use the shuttle and stolen uniforms to sneak onto the dreadnought, where they plant explosives in the engine room. Once the invasion is reported to the bridge, Admiral Noble orders Cassius to wipe out the village and heads to the engine room to capture Kora himself. At the same time, Jimmy arrives to assist the village defenders in pushing back the assault. He entered the enemy's shooting robot and blew it up with a grenade. As Noble confronts Kora, Gunnar listens to their conversation from the shuttle, which serves as their escape route just before they manage to bomb the villagers. The explosives that Kora and Gunnar set up eventually take down the dreadnought. In the heat of the battle, Gunnar rushes out to help Kora and confronts Noble. Gunnar managed to kill one of Noble's soldiers, but unfortunately, he was shot and wounded by Noble. A fierce battle ensued between Kora and Noble as the ship was falling. Eventually, as Noble was strangling Kora, Gunnar succeeded in stabbing Noble from behind with a sword, saving Kora. In the end, out of sheer rage, Kora decapitated Noble with the sword. They then boarded a small ship together and escaped before Noble's large ship crashed. However, upon landing, Gunnar, who had previously been shot, couldn't survive for long and ultimately passed away. Just then, Devra Bloodaxe, sister to Darian Bloodaxe and the leader of a group of insurgents fighting against the Motherworld, arrives with her rebel forces and ships. Together, they destroy the remaining Motherworld troops, leading to victory for the villagers. In the aftermath of the battle, the village mourns its losses, and Kora reveals her troubled past. Titus, who had already known her story, then shares a shocking revelation that Princess Isa is still alive and in hiding. The group, united by their mission, declares their intention to find Isa and restore her to the throne, aiming to depose Belisarius and reclaim their future.